All right, welcome. It's still the morning crossfire right here, 99.3 Nigeria Info. My name is Kofi Bartels. Good morning to you, and hope you're having yourself a good day. We'll be joined by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who is the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, and of course, looking forward to him joining us virtually to talk about the new tax laws. To be a part of the conversation, please call 0201 277 0993. All right, 0201 277 0993. That's the number to call to be a part of the conversation. 0201 277 0993. Second number, we have 0201 excuse me, 465 7190. 0201 465 7190. We're taking comments only on WhatsApp, so please you don't send any messages, voice notes, just your comments on our WhatsApp. And WhatsApp number is 08095 975805. 08095 975805. We're very glad to hear from you. Are you aware of the tax laws? What do you think about these tax laws? And of course, what's your view? You think it'll be good for the economy? It'll make things better in the country or not? There's some concessions coming the way of Nigerians as far as these laws are concerned, especially if you earn below a certain amount of money every month. And I'm glad to say we have the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms and Fiscal Policy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Good morning to you, sir. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
All right. I think there should be some sort of victory lap for you because, you yes, yesterday I told our listeners that you've been on this campaign, right from your days in the private sector. You've been writing, I've read articles, you've written reports, you've written even whilst at PwC and others, about why Nigeria needs to reform its tax, regime and its fiscal policies. It's not today. Am I correct? Is that true?
Yeah, very correct, Kofi Bartels. In fact, 2 days ago, I was going through some of the things I wrote in the past, and I saw a publication that I had authored in 2010, that's 15 years ago, where I highlighted the top 50 tax issues in Nigeria, from those one impacting on small businesses, low-income earners, large businesses, investments. So you're right. So it's been a long journey, and we're grateful to God for the opportunity to make those reforms at this time. Along with, of course, I have to mention my incredible team of very patriotic Nigerians who work day and night very hard to get these reforms across the line. Of course, it's my face that most people see, but clearly it's a solid team behind the work.
Interesting. How challenging was it to get these bills over the line? You engaged in a lot of media campaign, media enlightenment. You engaged in a lot of meetings, public hearings, town halls, just to get Nigerians to understand and to buy into this, and also several engagements with the legislature. So what was it like? Was it really challenging? Was it difficult? At a point, did you feel that this was, hey, what am I even doing here? Will this work?
It was extremely challenging and very difficult, much more than anything I had anticipated. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. There's no country in the world where reforms are easy. If you are trying to move things around, upset the status quo, there are people who are benefiting from the chaos that we have. So they will fight back, and they have the resources to do so, including even government agencies using government resources to fight government reforms. When I started the work, I had no idea that getting the ideas out, brainstorming, was going to be like only 10% of my work. It turns out that stakeholder management was like 90%. Wow. From dealing with politicians, and next, a very big headache was the media. So they were just guys who were just ready to either cook up some stories, sensationalize whatever you say, twist everything at every turn. It was really tough, but we thank God. Looking back today, it's worthwhile, and I have no regrets at all. I'll do this over and over again. I love my country, and the easiest thing to do is to go on Twitter, X, or LinkedIn, or radio and TV and criticize, right? Complain, which is okay, is you're right, but that has not solved any problem in any country, anytime in history. Some people have to step forward and make those sacrifices. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that for my country.
Interesting. You talked about, some persons even using government resources to fight this government reform agenda. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, one of the very not so public costs of doing this for me personally is the safety, security, emotional aspects, impact on my family. And there was a day I went on TV, I think this was late 2023, shortly after my committee was inaugurated, maybe a couple of months after that. And we're very clear, one of the mandates was for us to harmonize taxes, both in terms of the number of taxes that people have to pay. There are just too many of them. And also in terms of the number of agencies that should be collecting taxes. Not everybody should be collecting taxes. People should do their work and allow the revenue agencies to collect taxes. That's what is done in all sane climes. So I went on TV and I said that we're going to stop over 60 government agencies from collecting taxes and levies. I had no idea the enormity of what I said. So my family got a death threat. They did the security assessment, and the estate where I built, the house I sweat to build over a period of more than 10 years. I had to pack out of my house, rented a place in a secret location where I live now with, I'm not the kind of person that wants anybody carrying gun to follow me around. So I had to accept that I have mobile police protection and all of that. So it's not been easy. My wife, I said the other time on one of the TV stations that my wife, because I come from a very strong Christian family. My wife fasts every evening, and I'm not joking, every night. So she doesn't sleep, and it affects her quality of life, her ability to work the following day. But that's the only thing she knows how to do. My mom is close to 80 years. So she heard in the news that some people were attacking me, the phone was not working and all of that. And my mom started fasting. And I'm an old woman, and then she developed ulcer, So there's this bit of sacrifice that people don't see. And that's why I keep encouraging people that if you really want our country to be better, when you see honest and competent people who want to help, don't discourage them. Because it's hard already. If you're not in the public sector to steal money, it is not attractive at all. The only consolation for someone like me is the opportunity to make an impact on a large scale.
I think your name has been written, embossed into the history of Nigeria forever. By this service and sacrifice that you have given. I think the media houses also need to give you an award, because for any government agency, government committee to get the chairman, to come on air, from time to time, and I see across different media houses explaining. It is worthy of commendation, and I don't mean that lightly, Mr. I don't mean that lightly at all. It's worthy of commendation. I think more people in government need to take a leaf from you, borrow a leaf from you, and do the same. And it's really, really helped us to understand what the government is doing. I think this public stakeholder engagement is something that we need to look at more. For you, your name is a household name. People know you when we mention. So please, we have to commend you. We have to commend you seriously for that. But to hear that through this process, it came at personal cost. Emotional distress, safety issues. That is really worrying. That your family received death threats. That is really worrying. I wonder, if the person or the people behind this have been caught. If the police is investigating. But you said something that you've been saying that we're going to stop 60 agencies at least from collecting taxes from Nigerians. And I remember Dora Queenly, what she went through too, because it's like now you want to take food out of the mouth of people, who are victimizing Nigeria. So that must have been very difficult for you to go through.
Yeah, you're right, my brother. So I think it's not really surprising, to be honest, and I don't think it's peculiar to Nigeria. It's anywhere in the world. If you allow this kind of misbehavior, corruption, extortion in whatever form, whether it's drug dealers you allow to do stuff, whether it's oil cartels. You see, look at what Dangote went through, just wanting to do a refinery. Whether it's also to do with this tax reform, where you want to stop some people from, because they were not collecting those monies for government. The bulk of the money they were collecting was for themselves. And of course, when you see those guys on the road, they're not the one keeping all of it. They have principals, and those principals they're not the regular people. They're not small boys and girls. They're big people that have resources. They're well connected, so they will fight normally. So of course, government did well when I reported the death threat. They did their investigation, both the police in Lagos, where the threat came from and where my family is, and also the DSS. And they made all the assessment, but of course they couldn't pin it down to whoever was behind it. But then they advised that I had to reassess my security, my movements, where I live. And, I believe that now that the laws have been signed, there's really no point for anybody to get rid of me, because it won't solve their problems anymore. So, and like I said before, even if anything happens to me, like, now, I'll die a happy person, because Nigerians will remember there was a guy who was trying to help his country.
Indeed, and you're not about to die, because listening to the prayers of Mama, the fasting of your wife, you are covered. You are covered. Because Bible says, "They that dwell in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." And
Absolutely,
certainly nothing can touch you. Interesting. Do you feel because the president has he must have told you certain things he wants to see, he wants for Nigeria. You must have had several private moments with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that we have not had the privilege of having as people in the country. The president gets a lot of stick, a lot of criticism and critique because of obvious reasons. Personally, I've also been part of those who've criticized him over several issues. But looking at some of the benefits of these tax laws, the fact that the multiplicity of taxes will be reduced, multiple taxation will be reduced to the barest minimum, and some Nigerians enjoy tax breaks or no tax at all if they earn below a certain threshold. All the benefits which you'll talk about in a moment. Do you feel the president, there's something that Nigerians, across political divides and ethnic divides and religions, can commend the president for that? He has done well.
Yeah, so you're right. I think people are right to criticize the government. I criticize the government myself. What is different now is, rather than criticizing government on Twitter, I have access to the government. I can criticize them internally, because I'm not looking for applause. There's no point to go public to criticize them anymore. Once I'm no longer in the public sector, I will continue to criticize government. That's how societies are built. So everybody is right to do that. What I just encourage people to do is to do it constructively. Don't criticize your country to tear it apart. Criticize to build it up. So long as that's what you're doing, then you're perfectly all right, and you should continue. So I need to really commend Mr. President. The kind of leadership he provided was the only reason that this happened, because we know that at the point this became a political issue, it became regional, tribal, religious issues. And you know how Nigerians can be so sensitive to those issues, and they won't hear anything else we were saying. The level of trust was quite low, even within government, and also between government and the people. So I'm not blaming anyone if they didn't trust the government. Maybe they had no reason to. Government has not earned the trust. But Mr. President was very clear to us in terms of addressing multiplicity of taxes. In fact, he mentioned that on day one during his inauguration. And we were very clear about don't tax poverty. And the other word he uses, don't tax seed. Because when you begin to tax people on their investment, somebody is setting up a factory and you are taxing them, they buy vehicle to try and sell products, you are taxing them at every turn where they move. Those things don't make sense. We should allow people to invest. We should allow them make a lot of money. We should allow them to grow, allow small businesses to become medium, medium to become large, large to become multinational, and then the tax revenue will come naturally because people can't give what they don't have. If I'm unemployed, it doesn't matter how nice your tax laws are. It doesn't matter how your tax officers are effective or efficient. You can't get anything from me, So that was really the principle. We didn't set out to do reform so that we can collect more revenue for government. No, that would be placing the cart before the horse. The objective was let's try and make the system work for everyone, particularly the people below the middle class, the low income earners, nano, small, micro entities. And once everyone begins to make money, begins to prosper, begins to grow, they will have the capacity to pay taxes. Even if they are not declaring their income to pay income tax, people will go and spend. When people have money, they spend. When they spend, they'll pay VAT. They'll hire more people. They'll pay them salaries. Mm-hmm. So that is really what we've done. And when the controversy was really heated, I really commend Mr. President because most of the things we did, you couldn't go to the Mr. President and discuss 1,001 things. So we didn't even know what was going to go wrong. And some of those things we had not discussed with him in advance. They were blaming it on him. And he took all of it. He never for once blamed us. And he did not dictate to our committee. He did not influence our decisions. He was only asking questions and providing guidance. So I will really commend him. I don't know whether any other president since our independence would have been able to pull through the kind of what we had to navigate, that he provided leadership that made it happen eventually.
Quite interesting. For those who are just joining in, we still have Taiwo Oyedele, who is the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. And when we come back from the break, we'll have some more questions to ask him. And of course, we'll take your thoughts, your comments, your opinions on these new tax laws, which are no longer tax bills, but now tax laws. 4 of them, the Nigeria Tax Bill, the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, which is not the Nigeria Tax Law, the Nigeria Tax Administration Law, the Nigeria Revenue Service Law, and the Joint Revenue Board Law. So we'll look at that. And also just to get a sense of the experience, some of the incidents and the controversies that happened. So when we come back, I would like to know how you navigated the Northern Senators or Northern Legislators saga when they outrightly last year in December demanded the suspension of the consideration of those bills in the National Assembly. So we'll be back after this short break in a matter of a few minutes, and then we'll get to that particular question. All right, still the Morning Crossfire. Please stay with us.
Sanlam Alliance. Live with confidence.
Malaria, go away. Charlatan knocks you away. 3 days is all it takes.
Charlatan Quality Anti-Malaria contains Artemisa and lumefantrine, available in cherry-flavored dispersible tablets with very convenient dosing for kids. Charlatan is also available in tablets for adults. Knock out malaria in 3 days with Charlatan from Shalina Healthcare. If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult your doctor.
Charlatan is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
Your number one station for talk. Let's talk. This is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, welcome back. We're now able to take your calls. If you have any question to ask our guest, please feel free to do that. For the business people, you may want to know more about the new, corporate taxes that you have to pay. If you're an individual, you're a worker, you want to know about the new, rates for taxation on your income, or the exemptions and all that. So is this going to increase the taxes, reduce it? The acts say all of that. Taiwo Oyedele is chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform. So before I ask you the other question I talked about, I just want to get to the nitty-gritty. First of all, just to correct myself, I said that they are laws now. They are laws, but they are known as acts. So the 4 of them are now to be called Act: the Nigerian Tax Act, the Tax Administration Act, the Revenue Service Act, and Joint Revenue Board Act. Now, for those of you listening this morning, just some quick questions that you might want to answer. Do you run a small business? Because the definition of a small business has been really defined, or it's been taken care of in this particular, in these new acts. So it's been redefined as per how much you earn and what your turnover is. So do you run a small business? How will the new 15 million naira turnover exemption affect your bottom line? For those who are in the crypto sector, the crypto traders and holders, what do you think about your trades attracting capital gains tax? Those who are, in the capital market, what about you, with your shares and all that? And then for families, have you already noticed any price shifts in essentials? Please call and have your say. Mr. Oyedele, Nigeria is entering a major, fiscal shift. And you've described these reforms, as mechanisms to curb inflation. And of course, also a way of easing the cost of basic living expenses for many Nigerians. So can you please explain that, looking at the inflation in the environment, vis-a-vis what you've said about inflation?
Yeah, great question, Kofi. When you start a reform like what Nigeria is doing now, you start seeing the impact first and foremost at what the economists will call the macro levels. So where you say tax to GDP ratio is increasing, the cost of debt service to revenue was as high as 97% in 2022. It has come down now to under 50%. Revenue to the federation account has increased. When you see all of that, it doesn't mean anything to the person on the street, because how does that affect the price of bread and gari and beans? So, but that macro is where you have to start. And then you try as quickly as possible to translate it into micro. Micro is now how it affects individuals, households, businesses. That is what these tax reform laws will do substantially. When this law takes effect in January 2026, at the end of that month, as people are collecting their salaries, you see that your net pay has increased, even though nobody has increased your salary because your tax has reduced. When your net take-home pay increases, you have more for purchasing power. So which means you can buy maybe more bread. Maybe you can buy an extra pencil for the kid to go to school. So the things that are most important to you in terms of your basic needs, you'll be able to afford them. Number 2 is that, that's about income. What about our consumption? So we looked at the things that Nigerians consume. It's called the Consumer Purchasing, Index Basket, CPI. And it turns out that over 80%, precisely 82% of the consumption by the Nigerian people is on basic items, food, education, healthcare, accommodation, transportation. These five alone are the bulk of what Nigerians spend their money on. And in fact, when you go down the bottom of the ladder of society, they tend to spend almost entirely all their income on these basic needs. It's the middle class and the upper class that have something left. So what we thought was, why don't we remove the VAT from these items? So for food, for education, for healthcare, we remove the VAT by turning it to 0% VAT. And this is a fairly technical issue that most people don't understand. When you say an item is exempt from VAT, it means there's no VAT when you're selling it. When you say an item is zero rated for VAT, it also means that there's no VAT when you're selling it. But the difference between the two is when an item is VAT exempt, let's say is bread. If bread is VAT exempt, no VAT when you're selling the bread, but you producing the bread as the baker, you would incur expenses. You have a bakery, you buy airtime, you have maybe a vehicle to deliver bread. All those things that you buy that have VAT, you have to bear the cost. Because you are bearing the cost, you build it into the price of bread. So even though bread does not have VAT when it's exempt, the production process of producing bread has VAT that reflects indirectly in the price of bread. When you make bread to be zero rated, bread does not carry VAT, and any VAT that you incur in producing bread, you recover it back from the government.
How?
So because some people were abusing us, they said, oh, bread was exempt before. They say it's zero rated. They are confused because you don't know the difference between those two terminologies. So I thought it's important to try and simplify the explanation, so people will know that the government is sincere with these reforms and how it impacts on the people. Yes.
So this means that if you incur VAT expenses, you pay VAT on the cost of production. You can take a paper to government to say, this is a VAT I incurred on the cost of production to produce this bread, and the government will give you back the money.
Absolutely. So when an item is zero rated, that's how it plays out. If it's exempt, you bear the cost of whatever cost you make businesses bear, they pass it on either directly or indirectly. So the other area where we have reduced the cost is for businesses themselves. So whether you produce bread, whether you provide services, whether you are Nigeria Info, where you guys are providing services, if you incur VAT, either because you have equipment for your broadcasting, either because you send your journalists abroad or other places to go and cover some stories, you will incur VAT here and there. So what we have done now is that for businesses, any VAT that they incur on their assets, any VAT they incur on their services, and for manufacturers, the ones they incur on their inventory, they can claim those VAT back. They won't have to bear the cost of those VAT, because we see businesses as just vehicles for economic activities. We should not overburden businesses with costs. So those costs have now been removed. And what that means is that the cost for those businesses will come down. We are hoping and appealing that they will share the benefits with the Nigerian people by reducing their costs.
That is the big question. So so when you use Nigerian fund as an example, are you saying, because for what I've read, some organizations are exempt. So are we exempt, or it's just an example you're giving?
No, you're not exempt, but now you can claim input VAT. So Nigeria Info from January 2026. Your accountant will be able to file a claim and get some money back that you were not getting before.
Okay.
Because you are in the service sector.
Okay.
Businesses in the service sector never got any input VAT back before in Nigeria.
Okay.
So now they're going to get it.
Okay.
So that's the.
So that means that we if we claim input VAT, which of the VAT will we be paying? Are we allowed to charge VAT for our services, which is currently 7.5%?
Yes, yes. So you're currently charging that anyway. So Nigeria Info is charging VAT now on your services. You continue to charge VAT.
Okay.
So what is different is before you were not able to claim input VAT, which is the one that you paid.
Yeah.
But going forward, you will now be able to claim it. So which means more money for you, more profit for your business.
All right.
And that's the way we and even if businesses, because many Nigerians will say, "Oh, businesses will not pass it on; they will carry all the profits and keep it
That's
for
the fear.
themselves."
That's the fear.
And that's a fair concern. But there's a way the market will fight that over time, because when those businesses become more profitable, more people want to come in, and when they come in, they want to compete. And like now, the way they are adjusting the price of petrol, so competition has a way of adjusting it in the medium to long term. So overall, businesses will benefit, household and individuals will benefit, and Nigeria as a whole will benefit.
Okay, so you've talked about removal of VAT on essential goods like food, also removal of VAT on some sectors where they'll incur this VAT in the cost of producing these services or goods. But with VAT rising to 12.5% in 2026 from 7.5%, Mr. Oyedele, how will this balance out? How will this balance out? Because that's going to have its own impact to the economy. And what's okay? You've talked about. Can you also maybe after that give us a specific items that will be zero rated? To ensure real relief.
Yes, so the VAT rate is not going to rise anymore. So we had proposed that after removing VAT on the essential consumption by the masses, we should make the rich people pay a little bit more. Because the items on which we're going to raise VAT before were the things that are normally consumed by not the poorest people in society, like, stuff around entertainment, staying in a hotel, buying wines and beers, buying brand new cars, buying smartphones, we're not discouraging people from buying those things. We just say that you have the capacity to pay a little bit more so we can cater for these other people that we have removed the VAT on their consumption. But that wasn't popular, which is understandable. And then we were asked not to go ahead with it. So in the laws that were signed by Mr. President, there's no VAT increase. So that is good news. Although on one hand, I know very well that because of the credit we are giving to businesses, because of these VAT we remove on essential consumption, government revenue will drop from VAT significantly. And we don't want to solve one problem and create another one, because if government runs out of money, you're going to have them, especially at the state level, defaulting in paying salaries. You create another problem. I know everybody, including myself, is concerned about the prudence of government, about transparency, about accountability. We think that all those problems must be solved at the same time. We can't say, let's wait until there's full accountability before we raise money. You have to raise money while you're addressing accountability. The Buhari regime printed more than 30 trillion naira when they couldn't raise money. And those amounts of money they printed to spend is one of the major reasons why inflation in Nigeria today is very high. Because it's just logical that if you print money without backing it up with productivity, the value of the money in circulation will fall proportionately. So these are the things we must avoid at all costs to have a society that things work.
Okay, interesting. Mr. Oyedele, let's look at the personal income tax. For me as a worker, it's of interest now. You've said that you've said that Nigerians will begin to realize that their salary is going to go up because of the reforms and this new tax acts that have come into existence, particularly the National Tax Act. But is this? Some may confuse this to mean, the federal government bringing an increase in PIT through the back door. Because yes, whilst individuals earning 800,000 naira or less per year will now be exempt from tax on their income, those who earn higher, that's more than 800,000 naira per year, which is most workers in the country, will end up to 25%, if not more. So won't this about to bring in increase in personal income tax through the back door. That's giving something with the left hand and taking it away with the right hand.
I take it back. So thank you for asking, my brother. So it's not the way you said it, and I know that many people also have mixed up how this should be interpreted. In fact, we developed a calculator that is on our website, fiscalreform.ng. For anybody who is interested, you can go there and put your salary. And it will tell you how much tax you're paying now and how much you pay under a reform. But I'll tell you what we did. What we did was, for anybody who is earning about 110,000 naira, or a little bit more than that, about 110,000 naira a month or less, will pay zero tax. They will pay zero tax. They will no longer pay PAYE. And anybody who is earning between that amount of about 110,000 naira a month to 2 million naira a month, they will see a reduction in their PAYE. So their PAYE will not be zero, but it will now be less than what they are paying currently. It is only when you earn more than 2 million naira a month, you begin to see slight increases. So, and these slight increases is someone that is earning like 21 million naira a month, a year, 2.1 million. Somebody that is earning 2.1 million naira a month might see an increase of 500 naira in their PAYE. Whereas if you earn 100 million naira a month, you see your tax would increase from about 19% to 25%. So that 25% is really targeted at the high net worth individuals. And to be honest, that 25% top rate in Nigeria that we have introduced is still one of the lowest in the world, even by African standard. You know, you go to Ghana and it's 30, you go to Kenya and it's 35, you go to South Africa, it's over 40. You know, so, and the whole idea also is that even for these high net worth individuals that we're asking to pay a little bit more, you would agree with me, they're also the ones that mostly own businesses or they are the executive. Because we're giving so much profit to their businesses, they have more coming back to them. So just give a little bit to the system so that we can balance things, reduce inequality, and protect the vulnerable people. That was the principle behind what we designed, and we still believe that it was the right thing to do.
Okay, so if I earn 2.1 million, now the federal government will take at least 250,000 naira plus, you know. So will this be uniform across all the states? Because different states have been implementing different things.
Yes, it will be uniform across all the states. If you earn 2 million naira a month, if you earn 1.9 million naira a month, your PAYE, whatever it is you are paying now, will be less under the reform once we start the implementation. If you earn like 3 million naira a month, the tax you pay will go up. We can't say by exactly how much. You can do the calculation when you go to our website. So that is what to expect, but it will be uniform across all the states because it's a law that was legislated centrally by the National Assembly. And what states are meant to do is just to implement. They cannot introduce their own rates. So unless, you know, you may find a state where, and this happens in Nigeria, you know, regularly. You pass a new law, 6 months down the line, somebody is using the old template because nobody has told them to update their templates or they can't be bothered. And the people they are imposing the tax on, maybe they are not even aware. So which is why in the next 6 months, we're going to do extensive stakeholder awareness, communication, engagement, capacity building in different languages across the country. Because if you provide incentives and waivers for low-income earners and small businesses and they are not aware, there are officers of government that will still take advantage of them as if nothing has happened. And that can continue for years, you know. So we have to make sure that we have this covered for the real benefits to accrue to the Nigerian people so they can see the reform is for their own benefit and purposes.
It's very interesting indeed.
Good morning.
Yes, we have a caller. Who's on the line, please?
Good morning, Kofi Bartels.
Good morning.
Mr. Taiwo is a good. Thank God it's Monday.
Yes, who's on the line, please?
This is Pastor Ladipo.
Okay, please, straight up. Straight up.
Okay, supposing those in haulage businesses, I hope they will not also be paying double taxes, especially from all these people who are non-state actors who blocks roads to collect all kinds of levies and taxes from them.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Oyedele.
Yes, so the non-state actors who block roads to collect money, most of them are under the purview of local government and states. And some of the taxes they claim to be collecting are actually in the constitution. So what we couldn't have just written a law to stop them. For example, the fourth schedule to the constitution says that local government can collect radio taxes, TV license, wheelbarrow tax, bicycle tax, produce tax. If we write our law to say they should stop collecting it, it won't work because they'll say it's unconstitutional. So what we have done in parallel is to send recommendation to the National Assembly to amend the constitution. In the meantime, we are engaging with the local government and the states to say, if the law says you have the power to collect a tax that does not make sense, you also have the power not to collect it. Like if you stop collecting taxes on produce, nobody will take you to court. So that's the process we are going through. And there's a security aspect to it. And some of you may be aware that the National Security Advisor had a meeting with the Governors Forum last month, where the governors have now agreed that beyond the tax implication, there's a security aspect, both safety and food security, and they've agreed to suspend those taxes. So we're working through the practical process now of suspending them. I have to be honest with Nigerian people. It will not be quick, because some people have been doing this for all their lives and they're benefiting from it. So, but the process has started. And if we all work together, we'll look back in a couple of years and these things will be behind us, because I don't know of any sane society where you're trying to move yams from the north to the south and you pay over 700,000 naira, stopping you more than 50 places, 2.5, 3K, 2,000, and it adds up.
Okay.
Yam gets to Lagos and the poor man cannot afford it anymore because of this insanity of illegal taxes.
All right, sir. I believe your work is still ongoing, and we will have some time to, keep talking about these things. I'm happy to hear you have sent some memos to the National Assembly. It's good to see that the work is still ongoing. We would like to have you back, maybe in a month's time, to see, where the public perception is at, and I hope that I know you oblige us. Mr. Oyedele, thank you very much for your time, Chairman, Presidential Committee on Tax, Fiscal Reform and Tax, Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. Someone called you Prof. So I missed that out on our WhatsApp. Thank you, sir.
I am malaria, the king of malaria parasites. My mission is simple: to take over your body, to cause fever.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info.